So
okay, so here are the objectives for today: is to identify your basic roles and responsibilities, recognize what belongs in the minutes and what doesn't, and understand the importance of the minutes and keeping your records. So hopefully we'll all end up looking like this and not like this, although honestly sometimes I feel like that. But yeah, not gonna go there. So just in case, what kind of secretary are you? Because some units have not only a recording secretary, but a corresponding secretary as well. If they don't, sometimes all responsibilities fall on you and you're the secretary. So please check your bylaws and check with your unit just to make sure. But this class, we're going to focus mainly on recording secretary. Your basic responsibilities are kind of broken down into 3. So your preparations for the meeting, your actions and what to do during the meeting, taking the minutes and your other tasks, and then post-meeting follow-up. And we'll go into that a little deeper in the next slides. So to prepare for your meetings, the sending out the meeting notice. Now I just mentioned some units may have a corresponding secretary, so they would most likely be the one to send out the notice at that point. And sometimes the president does that because they like to send out the agenda as well. But you'll work with your board members and your president to develop the agenda and make sure the notice gets out. And you send out copies. Someone will send out copies of the agenda and then the meeting minutes from the previous meeting that are to be approved during that meeting. And this is a sample agenda. If some of you like taking notes, don't worry about it. Again, these slides and the handouts are going to be available, and it has a full list of what an agenda should look like. And most likely your president got this. One of the main things I do want to point out is make sure that in your minutes you have the proper name of your unit, the type of meeting, date, time, and location. And make sure to include all reports that are submitted.
Linda, before you move on, there's a question in the chat asking if roll call should be included as well.
Yes. Yeah, it'll be on one of the next slides. You will be including, is it on this one too? Yeah, the roll call and quorum. You will either write out those are in attendance or attach an attendance sheet. And then you simply refer to that. And then make sure that you mention in your minutes that a quorum has been met. I'll touch on it a little later, but if there is no quorum, if quorum has not been met, then it's basically an informational meeting and no actions can be taken at that one. So you won't be reporting any motions because you don't have quorum to take care of business. What to bring or what you should have handy. Most of this stuff, by the way, is written as if we're doing in-person meetings. I know we're doing a lot of virtual ones. So obviously, you're not physically bringing it, but you have it with you or on your computer. Every board member should have a copy of the bylaws and standing rules in that it'll have the quorum that's required. So look at that. You have your meeting agenda, minutes from the previous meeting, any correspondence, keep track of unfinished business, your list of committees, chairs, membership list, and your membership chair should be able to provide that at the end of your term, because as the membership grows, you should be getting an updated one, and then the final one you would include when you bind your books, and I'll touch on binding books later as well. Motion forms optional, that'll come up. Materials to take notes. Some do still write them. Most of you will probably be on the computer during the meeting and typing them up as the meeting's going on. I'm kind of in between myself. Don't type quite as fast, but this is a sample motion form. Not everybody, not all units use them. As secretary, it is very handy to have, but it's something that you and your president and the board want to decide if you want to implement and use them. Trying to see what I wanted to touch on for motions. Motions start with I move that, and then it's your job to write exactly what is said next. If you don't get the exact wording the first time, you can ask for clarification and read back what you wrote just to make sure it's correct. Or like I said, this is where these motion forms come in really handy, and you have people write down. So there's no mistake in what was said and which action was taken. I know it has a spot for the motion was seconded by. You do not need to record who seconds the motion in your minutes. Just whether the motion was approved or failed or amended. And in your handouts, we will have a handout that's all about motions. It'll have samples, and that should help you if you have questions along the way. So great reference.
Linda, before you move on, there's a question in the chat about motions. It says, if you use a motion form, do you also transcribe it in the minutes, or is it instead of putting it into the minutes? I guess that's what she's trying to say.
If you're using, whether you're using a motion form or not, you put the motion within the minutes. It is a tool. It does not replace having the motion in the minutes. Does that explain it?
I believe so.
Okay. If not, ask again. I don't mind at all. But yeah, it's just to help you and make sure you get the wording right. Not like the committee report where you can say see attached report, or the financial reports where you include them. You would take the motion that's on the form and write it into your minutes. Maybe that's a little more accurate.
Okay. Good.
Any other questions before I move on to during?
There seems to be a question for motion approved president and approve. Oh, can the president approve? Janet Gonzalez asked.
Motions.
Always get a second.
Motions are not made by the president. It would be a board member that would make the motion. The president would state it's been moved that we do such and such. Make sure there is a second. If not, make sure ask for a second. A second just means, you know, if somebody agrees and allows for discussion at that point. If there is questions or discussion, then that gets handled. And then the president will probably remind, okay, so this was the motion on the floor, and take the vote. President usually doesn't vote unless it's to break a tie. This is almost more parliamentary procedures, but I will try to help as much as I can.
Yeah, I think that answered her question.
Okay, awesome. So during the meeting, someone asked earlier, taking attendance. Yes, you add either the attendance sign-in sheet or list them out, all those in attendance, and verify whether a quorum was met. So you would state that quorum met or quorum was not met. You would present minutes for approval. So these are previous meeting minutes. And those will be approved as presented or corrected. And you would list the corrections in the current minutes and make them in the minutes that you're approving. And I will have a slide on that in a little bit. Talked about motions. Again, if it's not in the minutes, it didn't happen. So please record your motions. Motions are the actions of your PTA. During the meeting, take the minutes, count votes if you're voting, and you are a voting member of the board. Pretty straightforward. So we will go on to the next one. So as far as the minutes, basically state what was done, not what was said, stick to the facts, record the actions taken, be brief and factual, accurate, record the final amendment motions, work off of the agenda, and just for ease of reading, use a separate paragraph for each subject or report or each officer report. Nice, clean, concise. Things to include. Well, I don't think I need to read all this. Take a moment. And again, the handouts and these slides will be made available to all of you. We touched on most of this already. You will sign and date all minutes, the date that they were approved by the board. Executive board approves executive board meeting minutes, association approves association minutes. And again, make sure the name of your association or your PTA. Some units are known as one thing, but their bylaws, their proper name, which is in the bylaws, is slightly different. So make sure you use that in your minutes. Some things you should not include are opinions, judgmental phrases. Again, we're just sticking to the business of the PTA and the actions that are taken. If there is a motion and there is a discussion, you can hide or summarize the concerns, but no opinions. Try to keep it clean and concise. Oh, okay, I thought it froze for a moment. Once the meeting is done, for those of you that are writing and not typing while the meeting is going on, obviously you would type up the minutes. I try to do it, as soon as possible while everything's still fresh in my mind. Make sure you collect all the materials distributed, the treasurer's reports, any committee reports or officers reports that they've submitted. Other things that may come up, letters of resignation, bylaws, nominating committee report. So make sure you have everything and include it. If it's it's like a committee report, you could simply refer and say, please see report attached. Just make sure it's all included. Same goes for your treasurer's reports. If minutes are corrected, minutes will be approved as corrected, and you write the corrections in the current minutes, as well as on the ones you are changing. I think that will be the next slide. And as I mentioned earlier, only the group that created the minutes can approve them. So that's it's an executive board meeting, your executive board approves, association is approved by the association. And then prepare the minutes for binding. This is what everybody used to do, and some people still do. Binding your permanent records, your minute books, can be found in what we call secretary book, and you're basically gluing all the materials into a book. You can also get them bound at like an Office Depot. It would be press bound, also called thermal binding, tape binding, or cover binding. Do not use comb or spiral binding because pages can be removed. What we're trying to do is the permanent record in your minutes book has to be permanent, safely secured and stored, so it cannot be altered or not be easily altered. That's binding them. California State PTA does allow us to store them digitally. They do not recommend that you completely go digitally. They still prefer having a hard copy of all the records. But again, you can store them digitally. It again has to be secure. So password protected. It cannot be on your personal drive, but it has to be PTA property, right? And only you as recording secretary should be able to make the corrections. And so this is something that's still kind of new for some PTAs. Definitely for California State PTA, I do not have like a official CAPTA handout that states what you can and can't do when it comes to storing digitally. I think this past year and a half, with almost everything being digital and virtual, we've kind of had to adjust. And so to answer for some of you the question, can we store digitally? Yes, but make sure it is secure. Hopefully your PTA has a system where only the current members of the executive board have access to it. But again, not too high tech to where the next board can't manage it or find it. Make sure that your digital copies, just like hard copies and originals, need to be signed and dated. It has to have an actual signature, so not just using a cursive font on your computer. And remember that it has to include all the reports, contracts, and everything else. So it is one file. And that is probably about it as far as like binding and finishing at the end of the term. Hopefully, when we get closer to the end of the term, I will have more information to share with you guys as well to kind of reiterate and get everything in order. But that is the basics that I have available for right now. Oh, there you go. So correcting the minutes, you would circle that which need to be corrected, and then in the margins, write what it should be, and date and initial it. And that is how you would handle making corrections 2 minutes. And again, you'll have it in the minutes you're correcting, but you're also stating it in the minutes that you're typing up that they are approved as corrected, listing the corrections that you're making. So to review, the secretary works closely with the president and the board. Minutes are your legal documents and must be kept as a permanent record of your association. I'm going to say one more time, if you don't have minutes, or if it's not in the minute, it didn't happen. It is very important that you record everything, all the actions that are taken during the meetings. Trying to see what else I want to reiterate on that. I don't think it's clearer than like if it's not in the minutes, it didn't happen. And so when you go to the bank to change signers, the bank will probably ask for a copy of the minutes, making sure that these people are allowed to sign. When you're being audited, if you have an insurance claim, they're probably going to ask for the minutes, and if it's not in there, it didn't happen. Which is, some people, I used to think like, oh, I'm just taking notes. No, these are your legally binding documents. So it is very important that you get the information in there. Approved minutes should be placed in the official file. Okay, and I think we've wrapped it up with that. Besides the handouts, the recording and the slides that we'll make available for everyone, California State PTA has a website, CAPTA.org. Their toolkit is a wealth of information. Your bylaws, obviously, as well. Have to mention that. And National PTA. And then we have, as 33rd District, our website, 33rdpta.org. And if you are from a unit, if you have questions, you'll initially go to your council counterpart, so your council secretary. I know the councils are working closely and working really hard to help the units. So reach out to them first. And then if they don't have the information you need, they will come to me. And if I don't have it, I will go to California State PTA, but we will get you the information and resources that you need. We're here to help. And having said that, if you guys have any questions, I probably talked a little too fast. I think we can open it up. Tanya, if there's questions in the chat that you want to throw at me first, and then we'll ask people to unmute and just ask them instead of having to type them in the chat, will probably be easier.
Okay, sounds good. The first question comes from Jessica Gonzalez. She's asking separate amendments. So in regards to amendments, they need to be separate. I'm guessing that's what she's trying to say, but you can unmute if I'm getting your question wrong.
So this is on motions. There is a full handout on motions, but someone would make a motion, a second, and there's discussion. If the motion is to have an event on such and such day, and turns out there's something else going on that day and we need to change the date, you can amend the motion. So someone will move to amend the motion to read, we're holding this event on that day. That motion will get seconded and voted on. If the motion fails on the amendment, then you go back to the original. If the motion to amend is adopted, you would go back to the main motion as amended. So, hold this event on the new date, and then you vote on the motion as amended, and that one is approved or failed, but hopefully approved, right? So that's motions in a as brief as possible. Explain. I hope that helps. If not, yes, please raise your hand or unmute yourself.
Okay, she said thank you. This one is coming from James Williams. What exactly is new business and unfinished business? I'm not sure what I should be recording for those sections.
You may not have any new business or unfinished business. If the previous meeting was, oh, go ahead. Was there more to it or no?
No, he's just saying that he's not sure what to record in those sections. So, yeah.
If there's new business, the president will bring it up. If it's sharing information, you can summarize. If there was something, if there's a motion, you would record a motion just like anything else. It's on the agenda, it's just another section. So you would give it its own space and report whatever is said or done. Unfinished business is if the previous meeting, something was unresolved and that needs to be brought back. That's where you will do that. That's basically all there to it for that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. Since we're in separate places, and sometimes we had made as a council, we had made some decisions like, okay, it is in the minutes, we're gonna get some t-shirts, for example. And then once you get there to the store and you say, okay, these are the t-shirts that they have, do we record that? Like, what we're doing is like, okay, this is the t-shirt that we want. These are the colors that I found. And then do you guys approve? And then we even have it like as a roll call. Yeah, we approved, we disapprove. But do we have to, I mean, how do we record that? Do we, like, we bought a printer and it was like, we have this printer, this other printer, which one do I get? And how much paper do I get? Things like that. But then I mean, we have a roll call and everybody says, yeah, that kind of paper, not that printer, whatever. So do we record all that? Because it didn't happen if it's not in the minutes. So how do we record it in our books?
Okay, well, you're talking about certain expenses or programs or, buying equipment. At your first association meeting, well, your executive board, business tends to go to executive board, then to the association, right? And you report everything in between to the association, everything that has happened. But at your first association meeting, you approve a budget.
Right.
In that budget, it's programs, expenses. So if buying equipment like a printer is not approved in the budget, then yes, you have to make sure it goes to your executive board and then your association for approval. And it is spending a certain amount. For your executive board, you would probably get 3 quotes, right? And then present them, and then at that point decide which one, and then it's one motion. If you're buying paper for an event to print stuff on, the color, I don't.
Yeah, that was like a layman's game.
That's a lot of detail.
Yeah.
That as long as the expense for the t-shirts is approved, you're okay. Again, the color is the decision. Hopefully you have a chair or a committee that's running that and making the choices and then presenting to the executive board what they're going to be doing. Do I think you need to have the color listed in the motion? No.
So we don't, I mean, like if I'm at Costco and I said, okay, this is the printers that we have, which one do you want? And I'm there, I'm gonna buy it right there. So then, and then they answer, okay, buy the 1 HP or buy this one, whatever.
If you guys have already agreed to purchase a printer and it's in your budget and it's been approved, you can make the purchase.
Okay.
If you're talking to board members behind the scenes, trying to make a choice while you're in the store, whether it's this brand or that brand, it's kind of like the t-shirts, whether it's green or blue, that is a detail that's a little
Too much.
in my opinion.
Okay, so we don't need to record any of that.
No, as long
Okay.
as, like for the printer.
Yeah, we already have the budget for it.
budget,
We already had made the
place to
decision
spend
on the
it.
minutes prior. Then afterwards, we don't need to do anything.
You don't need to decide, share which brand you bought.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Better safe than sorry, right?
I know, I love to ask questions and I'd rather have the right answer.
Hey, Linda, I wanted to
Yeah.
chime in on that. So, I mean, if you had a committee, like Linda mentioned, that was buying the printer, because sometimes we're so small that we don't necessarily have committees, that level of detail could go into the committee report, but
Okay.
not your minutes.
Oh, okay.
In the minutes, you might say, refer to the committee report for the details, but that level of detail doesn't get in your minutes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, there's a question in the chat in regards to the handouts. They want to know how to access them.
Oh, yeah, we had a hiccup. Usually I email out a Word doc. Everything is on Google. And I didn't have it, so it was set up for access to everybody, but it is now. So Gerard, Director of Communications, awesome. help me move them. So you should all have access to all the handouts. And then again, the plan is to have a recording and the slides also made available, but that would be on our 33rd District PTA website, 33rdpta.org, and then under Bootcamp or trainings. Gerard, you can clarify.
Yeah, I want to chime in. We have a YouTube channel that we will post all the training videos to. The YouTube channel link is in the footer of our website if you want to go to that YouTube channel. But we'll also have a section on the website where the video and the links to the handouts will be posted. The email that I sent out earlier, if you joined before 9 a.m. this morning, you would have received an email with links to the Google Drive where we have all of the handouts, and that should work.
It should now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gerard. The handouts, it's a lot of information. I know there's 8, and I've pretty much used what's been available because not a lot has changed. Some of it is repetitive. It's a really nice resource, and if along the way you have questions, because there is a sample minutes, there is a script for all the motions. There is a separate handout all about motions, and then tips and frequently asked questions. So it's quite a bit. I suggest use it as a resource along the way if you're trying to find out the proper wording and what should or shouldn't be in there. Yeah, I didn't want to overwhelm you guys by throwing all these motions out there. A lot of them are once a year, and it's just helpful to have them handy for when it comes up, like your elections or ratifying positions or those kind of things. How do we?
And it looks like we have a question from, oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
Anitza asked, is there a catch up your minutes to where they should be boot camp? So I guess maybe more of a interactive, is that what you mean, Anitza? If you want to unmute.
I mean, kind of. This is great, but I feel like we've already had quite a few meetings up till now, and for somebody who's a complete newbie like myself, with a board of only 4 people in a school that have a council and we don't. There wasn't a good handover. We almost didn't have a PTA this year, so that's why I'm on the PTA, because it was one of those, if nobody steps up, we're not gonna have PTA. So it's like a friend kind of basically together, and that's kind of, it's not gonna be very much. It's not a lot of work, just a couple of hours here and there.
Yeah.
We all know that's a big lie. So it's been a very eye-opening experience, just even learning what PTA
Yeah, if you
does and all that. You always hear about it, but you don't really know until you're knee deep in it. So
yeah.
Someone
asked, you can't say no. So yeah, I'll help out. And then next thing you know, you're in knee deep. It's kind of like that one picture where it's all the papers and all the stuff. It's like, that's kind of how it feels sometimes. I know we're trying to get to this all nice and organized. But it life happens. And I mean, I'm sure like everybody else, it's almost 2 years now, it's been crazy. You plan and never goes according to plan. And as far as like old records, obviously, ideally, and we're supposed to be retaining the minutes forever. There is a retention record list that's available on CAPTA, but as far as the minutes, those records are kept forever. Ideally, PTAs have a storage, a closet, a classroom where they store all their minutes. Sometimes it doesn't get passed on properly, Or sometimes you just get handed a binder where all the papers are falling apart and I'm coming out and you're like, what the heck? Would it be great to get those bound? Yes. Is it your responsibility? No. Maybe get a committee to help you, sort it out. Get some people in a committee. It sounds like, oh my gosh. And we all know people, we have friends, family that'll help. Make sure they're a member and say, go to your president and say, hey, I have these and these people to help me. And make sure that's recorded in the minutes, move to ratify the appointment of these people to this committee. And it's temporary, but they can help you, do what needs to get done to kind of get caught up maybe. As far as you right now, I know we're almost halfway. No? Oh my gosh. And so you have a good set of records. Maybe, what I do is I have a track. So each meeting is dated, what kind of meeting, and then all the documents are right there. I have an accordion file. Yes, I do still keep, at 33rd, we keep hard copy, but I am also storing it on PTA's shared drive. So we have it in more than one place, which is highly recommended, especially if you're going digital. But even, the hard copies, they get lost. People don't pass down their binder. So recommended more than one place. And so yeah, I keep a hard copy and I have it in an accordion file by month. And when they're approved, I make sure I date them and make sure all the the reports, financial reports, any flyers that are discussed or shared, I include those too. And so I just keep it that way. Once I sign them, and I do scan them into the shared drive, which is where they'll also end up being. And I'll probably put them on a flash drive because me and technology don't always work hand in hand, as you noticed. So I want to make sure that, I have records to hand down. And that's where I'm at. I don't, hopefully that kind of helps you. And if you have any questions or need help, I know we always say counsel. If you don't have a counsel, then 33rd is it. So feel free to reach out to me anytime.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you for all you do. Roxana.
Linda, I think we're lucky enough to have our superintendent every meeting for council. And he always give us, like what is going on in the district and all that, and ask us questions of what our kids need, which for me, it's good. My question is, there's some parents, always the same, that I keep question after question. Do I have to record all that? Like precisely the way he said it, she asked it, or he asked it, or just like the minimum, or do I don't have to record it at all?
Well, this is where someone, okay, and I'm gonna give you my more of a personal opinion. And we've already said, don't record discussions, mostly actions, but someone's coming to the meeting and sharing a report, taking questions and providing answers, to the parents. So that's great. So you would definitely summarize if there is important information like dates or contact information, things that he's sharing that, are pretty important. I would put it in there because those that can't attend, when they see the minutes, they'll still get the information. So I would include important facts. You do not need to record the full discussion word for word. And when you send out the minutes, you can send it obviously to your president, and you can include the superintendent, say, hey, make sure you check your report. If I miss anything, if there's anything you want, that I left off, they can comment like, oh, because if you're summarizing, you're not paraphrasing, so it may read differently. They can give you their input. So that's how I would handle that. Technically, you do not need to record word for word, all the discussions between the superintendent and the parents.
Great, thank you.
Oh, thank you. I can stop screen sharing. Yay, and I can see you guys.
So going back to what Roxana asked, for example, the superintendent says, we're having vaccinations. And then this lady says, well, what happens if I don't want to vaccinate? So should she just said, we're having vaccinations, but to the ones that don't want to vaccinate? Or that way she doesn't write who said it, who asked or anything. She just says, we're having, because that we're starting vaccinating the little kids. So that she just says, okay, to the parents that don't want to vaccinate, this is the protocol.
If they share the protocol, that would be good to put in there. Yeah, if the superintendent shares that.
Okay. But she doesn't say Sylvia ask, because that's what we
No.
used to do for the DLAC and ELAC meetings. We had to say parent ask what parent and who asked and what was the answer. But in this case, it's just
what I do is because you have a paragraph, right? It's the superintendent's report or whoever officer is reporting at that point. So you have that's its own paragraph. You can type up the report and then do a section discussion. And then list there what was discussed or added to it.
okay.
Yeah, just a slightly separate heading under their section and call it discussion and then list it right there. Like options were discussed for those that do not want to vaccinate. This is the protocol the superintendent shared. And then you can state it right there.
Got it, Roxy? Thank you.
It's because they're laughing at me because I write pretty much everything that they said. And then I'm like, I don't even, it's so long, but then they want me to read it. I'm like, come on, like it's a lot. Yeah. And then they're complaining.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to summarize. Yeah. But I'm glad to hear the superintendent's attending and sharing. So I like that. Thank you.
Yes, we're lucky every meeting that he's there and he's answering all our questions. And he takes, what I like about him is also that in our district, what the superintendents have done is that they're taking PTA very important, and they're helping us with the units that we're having problems. So they are there and they want to hear from us, and they want to come, and they always kind of like they have the space for us.
Mhm.
So this is the time that I'm going to give you guys, but also I need you to give me information.
Mhm.
So I want your feedback on this. So that's very nice. It's a nice Paramount Unified District is really a good district with the superintendents.
Nice collaboration. I like it. But yeah, we are their parent engagement portion. So
Yes.
we are important to them and we should have a voice. So I'm glad you guys do. Anybody else? Or are we all good for today? Again, I am available after this. My email is recording@33rdpta.org. But if there's
If we don't have any more questions, I'm gonna stop the recording right now.
that sounds good.